welcome to the 2021 Division II Football Selection Show. I am your host, Jeremiah Johnson. This is always a fantastic event, but even more anticipation as we will crown the first champion since 2019. The championship field will consist of 28 teams, with the tournament running from November 20th through December 18th. The championship game returns to McKinney ISD Stadium in McKinney, Texas once again. Now, the Division II football field is broken down into 4 super regions. 7 teams will be selected from each of the 4 regions. The top seed in each region will receive a bye in the first round of the playoffs. And remember, there are no automatic qualifiers. For more on the process and the season up to this point, we would like to welcome Wayne Cavati of NCAA.com, the country's foremost expert on Division II sports. Wayne, great to see you. Is this one of your favorite times of the year?
Absolutely. You know, we were away from D2 football for so long. I was counting the minutes to this selection show. It was anything but predictable this season. There were so many changes, so many new faces, and in so many new places. I feel like I have an idea how things are going to shake out today, but I'd be lying to you if I had told you I didn't expect a few surprises.
Why don't you remind the viewers once again a change that happened in 2019, that schools can be selected but moved into a different super region?
Sure. So back in 2019, with the amount of flights and travel that the D2 schools were doing, they allowed the committee to, instead of seeding numbers 1 through 7 in the super regions, they would seed 1 through 4, and those seeds would get the home game, the hosting game, and then the other 3 teams would be able to move around from whether in region or out of region, wherever a flight and a favorable matchup was available. And what I mean by favorable matchup is trying to avoid someone the team played during the season. That isn't always possible, but that's something that they try to do.
And it does seem as though the action that took place on the field Saturday definitely factored into the committee's decisions here on Sunday.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you had a few, you had the PSAC championship game, the CIAA championship game, the SIAC championship game, all these huge games. And you look at some of the super regions like Super Region 4, where everyone that needed to get a win got a win. So there was a lot of big losses that we'll probably talk about when we get to the super regions that kind of flipped them a little bit and made me not envious of not having to be in that selection committee room today.
We will chat with Wayne throughout the bracket reveal later in this show. Teams across the country, they're ready to see who is in, where they will play, and who they will play. Let's end the drama and dive right in. Earning the number 1 seed in this portion of the bracket and a bye into the second round is Kutztown. They'll get revenge for losing in that 2019 Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference Championship game to Slippery Rock. They did turn those tables on Saturday. This is their first conference crown since 2011. Jeremiah Nelson, great name, ran for a career-high 223 yards and 2 touchdowns on Saturday. Named Conference Championship Game Most Valuable Player, Kutztown is a 1 seed in this super region. Once again, they earn a bye. The 4 seed and a first-round host is New Haven. The Chargers are 9-1, still savoring the school's first Northeast 10 Conference championship in nearly 10 years. They closed the season with back-to-back games, rushing for over 250 yards. The first time this has been done by New Haven since 2012. One of those wins came against Bentley, a 31-14 game that, drumroll please, allows New Haven to host the rematch. There you see Bentley at 9-1, just the 3rd appearance in school history, first since 2004. Cole McCubry is the Falcons' leading tackler with 97. Shepherd is a 2 seed and first-round host. Look for Shepherd to air it out. Tyson Badgen entered the weekend as the country's leader in passing yards. Shepherd making its 13th appearance in the NCAA Division II tournament. Their first-round opponent is Findlay. Big-time win by the Oilers over Tiffin on Saturday. Brian Benson ran for 244 yards in the win. First GMAC championship, the Oilers' second NCAA appearance. Rounding out this super region, 3 seed and host, Notre Dame, Ohio, a high-scoring squad, averaging nearly 40 points per game, outscoring their last 4 opponents 196-28. you can celebrate Slippery Rock, another team that features an impressive aerial attack, averaging nearly 350 passing yards per game. The Rock sports a 9-2 record after a hard-fought loss to Kutztown in that PSAC title game on Saturday. Who knows, maybe they will get hot and earn a rematch in a few weeks. It's the third consecutive appearance and sixth in the last 8 seasons for Slippery Rock. Henry Litwin broke the school's career receptions record. So there you have the 7 Super Region competitors in this portion of the bracket. Wayne is ready to analyze what he has seen. How does the draw look for Kutztown?
Well, it's huge. You know, it's well-deserved, first of all. We're looking at a Golden Bears team that played a tough schedule. They had wins over Indiana, PA when they were nationally ranked. They have a win over Shepherd, over Shippensburg, who was in the rankings, the regional rankings, and, of course, Slippery Rock. But the reason that it's huge is that the last 3 number 1 seeds in this region have been the team that advanced to the national semifinals. And Kutztown has that defense and running game that you like to see in the postseason to control the clock and make things happen. I think, like I said, I think it's a very well-deserved number 1 seed, and it plays huge to their advantage.
Let's take a look at the bottom portion of the bracket, and we don't want to say that it should be Shepherd and Notre Dame, Ohio, but if it is, what kind of a second-round matchup is that? What do you see about those 2 teams?
It's polar opposites, right? So with Notre Dame, Ohio, you have a school that has new coaches, new running backs, but same results, right? It's a high-flying offense that's going to score points. It's got that great offensive line, so it's got that great running game. They have a 2-headed monster back there. And, you know, veteran quarterback Chris Brim is great to run the offense and can win you games if he has to. Then you flip the switch to Shepherd, and it's that aerial assault with Tyson Bagent, who is, you know, they have the top offense, scoring offense and total offense in D2 football right now for a reason. And it has a lot to do with the throwing game, but they have a running game this year. And it's a lot different than years past when if you could figure out a way to take away Tyson Bagent and make the running game beat you, it was hard for Shepherd. But now Shepherd has that running game, and they are a tough opponent.
Should be fun watching Tyson Bagent and Shepherd in this Super Region. Let's move on to the next Super Region. And the number 1 seed that gets next week off, it is Valdosta State. The number 1 seed, despite losing to West Florida on Saturday, 61-42. Seth McGill has rushed for 916 yards and 12 touchdowns, while quarterback Ivory Durham has thrown for 20 touchdowns compared to 6 interceptions. It's the Blazers' 18th NCAA appearance. They had won 30 straight regular season games prior to Saturday. At this point, we say hello to 4 seed and also a host in the first round, Albany State, Georgia. After losing each of the last 2 seasons in the SIAC championship, they made no doubt Saturday, defeating Miles College 31-0. An emotional day for all, less than 2 weeks after the loss of the life of Adonis Butler, who was taken in an accident. Last week, the team pitched a shutout, matching his jersey number 57, and then this weekend, bringing home the conference crown. Congratulations to that school in an emotional couple of weeks. The Golden Rams will host West Georgia on Saturday. If there was any doubt as to whether West Georgia deserved a spot in the field, there is none now. The Wolves dominated Delta State Saturday 44-7 in that game. McChain Slade became the single-season receptions leader. Harrison Frost took the top spot as the school's single-season passing leader as well. Great offense for West Georgia. Bowie State has earned a 2 seed, 6th NCAA appearance for the school. They entered the weekend with 7 defensive touchdowns, most of anyone in the country. Congratulations to Bowie State. Their opponent, Bowie State, will host Lenore-Rhine. The Bears closed the season on a 6-game winning streak, scoring 285 points over that span. Also their 6th NCAA appearance. Runner-up in 2013. Wayne wrote on NCAA.com about their case for an inclusion in the field, and they are in. The final first-round host here, 3 seed West Florida Once again, they finished with an identical record to Valdosta State. They beat the Blazers 61-42. This was their first regular season win against Valdosta State in school history. The reigning national champions would love nothing more than to get another game against Valdosta State in a couple of weeks. So that will segue to my Wayne Cavati analysis segment. Were you surprised in any way that West Florida, actually, let's see who West Florida will play before I bring Wayne into the picture. It is Newberry, 9-2. Newberry will have to travel to West Florida for this first round game. Now I bring in Wayne. I was so excited to hear from him. No slight to Newberry. Glad to see Newberry in the field. But how about Valdosta State getting that 1 seed and West Florida the 3? What do you think about that, Wayne?
Of course, it's going to be surprising because, a little recency bias when you're looking from the outside. But Valdosta State played the second toughest schedule in D2 football, and losing to West Florida, who are the reigning champs and have one loss to their name. That's part of the territory of playing in the Gulf South. I do think that it probably could have gone either way, but I'm not incredibly surprised that Valdosta State was able to hold on to the number 1, despite the loss. And they're both are incredible football teams.
I was going to say, if you're West Florida, you're anxious to defend your title that you won in 2019. You want Valdosta State, but you can't overlook Bowie State either, or Newberry for that matter.
No. Bowie State is someone that I've been high on the past few seasons, but this season, and you mentioned it, they have playmakers on both sides of the ball. It's not just the offense. They always have high-flying offensive players that put up big numbers, but the defense has special playmakers. They're opportunistic. They score touchdowns. They're dangerous, but if you're looking at a very intriguing first-round game, they draw Lenore Ryan, and you mentioned it. The streak they're on right now, they got hot at the right moment, and as we've seen in postseason play, you don't have to be the best team. You have to be the hottest team, and that's certainly what they are right now. So I think that's going to be a great matchup as well. And just, if whoever West Florida gets to play, it's like you said, they're chomping at the bit just to play and defend that title. But last time we saw West Florida, they were one of these unseeded teams, and they had to go through nationally ranked team after nationally ranked team after nationally ranked team, and just kept shocking the world and won the title. But now they're home, and they have a good chance to remain at home in front of a record-setting crowd that they just set this past weekend against Valdosta State. So, if West Florida wasn't dangerous enough with the pieces they have, they're even more dangerous when they actually get to play on their own turf.
We are halfway home. 14 schools have gotten good news. It is time for the second half of the field, and a number 1 seed and first round bye goes to Ferris State. No drama with this selection as the only remaining undefeated team in Division II. That is 3 consecutive undefeated regular seasons. Head coach Tony Anise said the goal for each year's teams is to go undefeated, win the GLIAC, and make the playoffs. Check, check, check. Incredible story also on NCAA.com. Wayne interviewed quarterback Jaron Bernhardt on his transition from lacrosse to the football field. He won a national championship with Maryland and now is hoping for one in Division II on the gridiron. The 4th seed in this super region is Grand Valley State. The Lakers are celebrating a 50th season of football. They get to do so with a home game in the NCAA tournament. Their only loss was by a touchdown to top-ranked Ferris State. The Lakers are doing it with defense, holding opponents to 16.6 points per game while putting up nearly 42 per contest. Grand Valley State will get another shot at Ferris State if they can defeat Lindenwood. The Lions finished 9-2, also were undefeated in GLVC play. Harding is a 2 seed, 10-1 on a 9-game winning streak since dropping a 32-31 game against Southeastern Oklahoma in Week 2. Harding is 3rd in the country in third down conversion percentage. This is their 7th NCAA appearance. Discipline is key for Harding. They lead the country in fewest penalties per game. Harding hosts Washburn on Saturday. The 9 wins for the Ichabod's, most since recording 11 during the 2011 season when Washburn reached the NCAA playoffs, their last appearance in the tournament. Congratulations to Washburn. Northwest Missouri State is a 3-seed and first-round host. The Bearcats clinched the program's 31st MIAA regular season title with a 35-7 triumph over Emporia State Saturday. They've won 11 straight home games. Don't try to get yards on the ground against this team. They're ranked number 1 in the nation in rushing defense, allowing only 38 yards per game. Northwest also tallied over 500 yards of offense in 6 of their 10 games. Al McKellar, 10 touchdowns over the past 3 weeks. Their opposition is Central Washington, 6th NCAA appearance and first since 2017 for the Wildcats, who made a statement beating Simon Fraser 70-0 on Saturday. So Wayne Cavati, you are back, ready to analyze this super region. Is Ferris State a prohibitive favorite in this one?
It's hard to go against them, but this is a really, really tough part of the bracket overall. All the teams are solid. Here we're seeing that first instance of the new rules. Central Washington, of course, is a Super Region 4 team, but they're shifting to Super Region 3, and they play, that tough Northwest Missouri State team that you mentioned. That the Bearcats of old were of recent history were rich right defenses, right? And they were power defenses, and that's what we're seeing here. You mentioned some of the numbers. They have yet to allow an opponent to score 20 points this season, and now they have to they get to square off against a team that has to travel, pretty much halfway across the country. So I think that matchup's intriguing. But yeah, Ferris State, they are perennial semifinal contenders. And the interesting thing, well, one of the many interesting things, is they're the only team overall undefeated heading into this tournament. And we're just a couple years removed from an all undefeated national championship game. Ferris State was one of those teams. And there's usually quite a few undefeated teams left this time of year, and it shows how difficult this season was. But Ferris State, it's not just that the starting team you look at is good. It's whoever they put in there. You mentioned Jared Bernhardt, but he missed a few games with injury. They had 3 different quarterbacks have 5 touchdown games this year. They just have an incredible depth, but it's having that first round bye in this region plays to a huge advantage, because when you got Northwest Missouri State, when you have their GLIAC rival Grand Valley State that has so much depth, that scored 40 points a game against one of the toughest schedules in D2, and then Harding, of course, it's not a walk in the park to that final game.
Wayne, can you follow up a little bit about Harding? What stands out about them?
What doesn't stand out about them? They are just great. You mentioned they're so disciplined. They run that rush-heavy offense. They're averaging. It's one thing to lead D2 football in rush offense. It's another thing to do it by averaging 403 yards per game. And they have so many different people back there that could beat you. Of course, Carl Chansey is the focal point, and I think he just had, I believe it was 220 yards in his season finale. So he's still alive and well, doing what he does best. But there's so many different pieces that could beat you, and then they're disciplined, and then their defense. They're winning. On their I believe it's 9-game winning streak, they're winning their games by about 30 points a game, if not more. So you got a good defense with a team that can just control the clock, and if they get too far ahead of you, you're not going to be able to come back.
It looks like they're using a drone shot on their school football broadcast. That is impressive as well. One final super region to show you, and we'll start with the number 1 seed here. Colorado School of Mines, number 1 seed and a host in the second round. They were number 1 in the final Region 4 rankings. They also just jumped back into Wayne Cavati's top 10 last week. The Orediggers finished the regular season in style with a 63-0 shutout of Adams State, clinching a share of their 3rd consecutive Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference crown. They'll be watching and scouting this next game, which features a host and 4-seed Augustana, South Dakota. For the first time in 62 years, the Vikings are the overall champions of any conference, celebrating the NSIC title Saturday by defeating Southwest Minnesota State 55-0. They've won 11 straight home games, aiming for 12 straight next week, but they will have to take on Bemidji State. Yes, Bemidji State will have something to say about that streak. The Beavers celebrated their first conference title since 2006 in the snow on Saturday. Brandon Alt, fantastic game. He threw for 435 yards and 5 touchdowns in a win against University of Mary. Angelo State earns the 2 seed. This is what Coach Jeff Gersh had hoped for. He was saying this Saturday, we're in, it's just a matter of where, and my hope is we're bringing a home game to San Angelo, and we can get a good crowd, and everybody can come out and watch a really good football team. Well, mission accomplished. They are a 2 seed and first-round host. They will host Minnesota Duluth, a happy, high-scoring senior day for Duluth as the Bulldogs downed Northern State 49-35. This clinched a share of their 21st NSIC championship. National champs in 2008 and 2010 in the field for the 12th time in school history. In Saturday's win, Armani Carmichael broke the all-time school record for receiving yards in a single season. The 3 seed in this super region is Western Colorado. First appearance since 1997. Props to the school for putting a live feed of the team watching this show on GoMountaineers.com/live. I don't know if they're even hearing what I'm saying because they're likely celebrating like crazy. RMAC co-champs, stout defense for Western Colorado. They defeated CSU Pueblo 14-7. And the final 5 possessions of that game for Pueblo were ended by punt on downs, punt, and punt. Great defense, and Western Colorado gets to host a first-round game. The final school in this 2018 bracket, so much drama and suspense, you can now celebrate Nebraska Kearney. The school website read this morning, the hay is in the barn. Lopers go 9-2 in MIAA play after defeating Northeastern State 56-10. They thought they had done enough, and in fact they have. They now celebrate a spot in the national tournament. You see some highlights of Nebraska Kearney. Quarterback TJ Davis is now the school's all-time leader in career rushing touchdowns with 39. This is the 5th appearance in school history, but first since 2011. Wayne Cavadi is back. You noted on NCAA.com this morning that this was probably a region that gave the committee a lot to think about, as all 10 teams that were trying to make the tournament went out with a win on Saturday.
Nothing really changed from the previous super region rankings, and I think that was the key, right? There was nothing that, unfortunately, they needed one loss in that part of the country would have kind of flipped the script, but I think they had to stick with what they had. It was, it was pretty right on for the first 2 rounds of the regional rankings. But it's very weird, they don't have the Minnesota State this time around to look at. They don't have the Texas A&M Commerce, the Colorado State Pueblos. These are the schools we're used to seeing here, and with a lot of these fresh new names and faces, and we have Nebraska Kearney, who of course is Super Region 3 by nature, but they moved with the new 2019 bracket rules. They moved for location. We have a lot of new faces here, and I think it was very tight. It came down to strength of schedule. You look at a Bemidji State, and they had the 39th best schedule. You look at like a Midwestern State who played a very tough Lone Star Conference, but when deciding between them or Central Washington had the head-to-head matchup. It was not an easy choice for any of these, especially without anyone losing. But with no one losing and moving forward with what was in place, I think was probably the fairest way to do it.
You accurately wrote that if Colorado School of Mines could win on Saturday, they were likely going to be that #1 seed. What are your thoughts on their chances in this super region?
Well, again, the teams I mentioned in the past, the Commerces, the Minnesota States, the Pueblos, they're defensive heavy, and I'm an offensive guy. I love offense, and Colorado School of Mines has offense by the boatload. John Matoka, the quarterback, he's great. He can run it if he has to. He can win you the game through the air, or he could just hand it off to the running back, who Michael Zeman, who it feels like a guarantee for 120 yards and a touchdown week in and week out of the season. And as you mentioned, it was a 63-0 game, so they have a defense, right? So I think a lot of the games, and Colorado School of Mines being the #1 seed and having that bye is kind of the staple of that in this part of the region, that it's going to be a lot of, I call it catch me if you can football, right? If you have the ball last, you're going to win the game. And I think with the teams that we have here, you mentioned Bemidji State's big win, Minnesota Duluth's big win. I think with the teams that we have here, we're going to see some exciting shootouts and a lot of fun football.
We should remind you, once we are to the semifinal round, the teams will be reseeded. Those games will be on campus sites, with the championship once again at McKinney, Texas. So we've seen the entire field. Let's bring Wayne back in one final time. And I will say I enjoyed your coverage all season long on NCAA.com and look forward to your coverage throughout the tournament. What are your final thoughts, and what will you be watching over the next month?
Well, final thoughts are, once again, 28 great teams. If you're asking me for the best matchup in the first round, I can't tell you, because I think they're all great. And I'm not just saying that. I think we're going to see a lot of great football, and as fans, we deserve it for having to wait as long. And as those student athletes take the field, they deserve it for having to wait as long as they did. But, the main storyline is what everybody wants to see, and that's a repeat champion. And I'm watching West Florida the whole way. They were the consensus preseason #1, no matter whose rankings you look at. And they're a top 5 team the entire way. They have one loss. And now, as I mentioned earlier, they have the home field advantage this time around. They're a program that seems to reset the bar every time they take the field. And, that's the big storyline of this tournament. And I'm excited to watch it get started.
Thank you very much, Wayne Cavati. I think I speak for all Division II sports fans. We appreciate your enthusiasm and your coverage of Division II athletics.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
There you have it, fans. All 28 teams who still have a shot at hoisting that national championship trophy, they now know their destination, or how they would get to the championship. The Division II championship will be played on December 18th in McKinney, Texas, at McKinney ISD Stadium on ESPNU. Make sure you check back here on NCAA.com for updated results and news throughout the tournament. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Once again, my thanks to Wayne Cavati for offering his expertise throughout the show. Congratulations and best of luck to all the student athletes competing in this year's championship.
There's an energy swelling out beyond the limits of your expectations. A universe where fandom reigns supreme. Once you're in it, it changes you. Instead of one of one, you're one of many. A blissful sea of chaos. Go beyond your limits and enter the NCAA universe. Get your seats today at ncaa.com/tickets.